Hey guys, this is Trevor Probant. This is the Land Investing Dirt Road to Wealth podcast. You don't have to worry about listening just to me today. We have my good buddy Matthew that is here with us. He is a New York guy working in the Southeast, and he's a good dude. And I wanted to get him on and kind of talk about what he's doing right now and some of the big projects he has going on in South Carolina, North Carolina, kind of that neck of the woods. So, Matt, let everybody know who you are, where you're from, and give them the whole spiel.
Sure. So, pretty much what you said. I'm in the Carolinas at the moment. Been in the dirt flipping kind of industry now for about 2 years, a little over two and a quarter years. And be honest, first year was just kind of hitting your head against the wall and trying to figure out what the hell to do. But over the last 12 to 14 months, really kind of kicked things in high gear. So, I work with a partner. He's actually out of Jersey, coincidentally, just about 50 miles away, but I'm in Manhattan and otherwise doing it remotely at the moment. So
Awesome.
I handle acquisitions side, so anything on the buy side, negotiating things like that, and he kind of handles the disposition side, getting everything sold and going from there. So we hit it
More
50-50.
let's hear more backstory, okay? Where'd you grow up? Wife, kids, what you like doing? Like let people know who you are, like what you really, you know what I mean? Let's get a little
Sure.
story there.
So grew up way upstate New York. You might as well call it Canada, but literally on the Canadian border. So 45 minutes south of Montreal, Quebec, and there until shortly after early 20s, 2021, and moved to New York City. I've been in the auto industry. That's my W-2, which I'm still in, and hopefully be out of there by the springtime. But I've been doing that for about 22-ish years. Mostly all super high-end. Lamborghini, Bugatti, Bentley, Rolls-Royce, Porsche for about 16 years. So playing with really expensive metal, which has been fun. But at some point, I want to be able to figure out how to buy them myself. So
There you go.
family-wise, married, one kid, one fur baby. That's it.
That's
Family
awesome.
guy.
So did you do real estate before you got into the land stuff?
So I tried to. I dabbled. I actually
Yep.
did get my real estate license here in the city, and for about 6 to 8 months, really gave it the good college try, as you shall say. And every evening, every weekend was just out there. Mostly, was working in the rental market with someone, and when you're dealing with the entry level rental market here in the city, no one's really exclusive to you, especially when you're talking about like a 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom studios, things like that. I mean, people are just, it's a really cutthroat industry. So people are out there and they're trying to find a place to live. And it's the way the cycles move in New York City. You have a week at most to really find something for the next month. Things don't become available until 2 weeks before the end of the month, and it's filled in sometimes minutes, let alone hours and days.
Wow.
So it's something you have to be. It's not a part-time thing, at least retail real estate. So, but I always have had an interest for it, and we have one midterm rental out in the Pocono Mountains right now in Pennsylvania, which is about 90 minutes away. But just always have had kind of an allure to it. Coincidentally, my father was actually a general contractor. He no longer does it anymore, but he used to build spec houses when I was younger. Mostly did additions and things like that, but he built a handful of spec houses, which kind of got me into it.
Nice. Nice. So where did you first hear about like the land side?
I heard about it on a podcast. What was his name? They ended up having Brent Bowers on it. This guy
Okay.
Jonathan, um, I want to say Muniz or something like that. He was like a side hustle kind of podcast thing, and he had Brent
Okay.
Bowers on there. So I heard Brent Bowers, and it was kind of like the story that he had to say at the time, which was all about basically owner financing. After learning about it a bit more, owner financing, quite honestly, at least in my opinion, is more of an end game for a lot of land flippers. You got to be able to have some capital to really be able to get a good bankroll going there. So, but anyways, that's where I initially heard about it, and that was in August of 22. That was the first time I heard about it,
Gotcha.
and I've been listening to wholesaling podcasts and things like that, and Land just seemed a lot simpler. And it is in reference to like houses and things like that. It's not easy, but it's definitely a simpler thing where you can do where you don't have to be boots on the ground because, there's not exactly a lot of land for sale in New York City or within 50 miles of it.
Yeah, and again, like you said, you're not gonna. It doesn't make sense for you, right?
Right.
And so you almost have to do virtual, whether you wanted to flip houses or whatever it is. You were gonna have to get out of your own sandbox anyway.
Right. Because
Yeah.
knockdowns within 50 miles of New York City are 500-600 grand, and that's just for getting the dirt. Then you start talking about rebuilding and everything else. Anything here, $1,000,000 is cheap.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. For sure. So, what are y'all? First of all, like, what are y'all focusing on? Right? What are you doing for marketing? What are you kind of doing on your right now, and kind of what you've done in the past, couple years, and then kind of what you're working towards?
So we've done predominantly mailers, along with text message follow up.
Okay.
We were hitting around 2,500, 3,000 mailers a month on average.
Yep.
In text, we're probably double to sometimes triple that in some months, just doing follow ups and going from there. It's for because at some point you start recycling all the old leads and going through the old stuff and starting hitting the other things. So, call it 2,500, 3,000 a month in mailers and 10,000 a month in text.
When you say mailers, what does that mean to you? Right? Like, is that a unsolicited offer? Is that a letter of, trying to of interest? Like what does that usually mean for y'all?
So we were initially doing blind offers. So actually
Yep.
having an offer number on there. And as you know, there's rarely a homogeneous county or even zip code where you can try to get like accurate numbers.
You gotta buy it in a damn subdivision, right? Like a paper subdivision. They work great when you have something like that.
Right.
But when you're working in areas, it can be, we'll talk about this with the house that I'm sitting on right now, right? On my side of the county and 4 miles over, you probably have $5,500-6,000 an acre difference in value.
Right. You even go closer than that. You can talk about a subdivision right here and just go to the next roadway that's 500 feet away, and it's twice. You could be half the difference,
Yep. 100%.
So yeah, it's hard to obviously get that going unless you're getting super hyper focused sniper kind of like you're just looking for waterfront property around this lake or whatever it happens to be.
Yep.
So we've moved from neutral offers after that, and now we've actually been doing blank offers, which has actually turned around, and we've been getting more calls that way. So we're basically
what is a blank offer? I don't know what that means.
So we're sending an LOL, a land offer letter,
Uh-huh.
and it's a full contract.
Yep.
It's just blank the amount. So
I can only imagine some of the things that you get sent back to you.
Well, yeah. So sometimes people just handwrite it in and send it back, and sometimes it's a deal, believe it or not, or it's darn close where you don't have to negotiate too much. And then other times it's $300,000 for something that's worth 13.
Yeah.
But you get a lot more curiosity that way, and you're getting the people too that you're not insulting. So when you have that $80,000 piece of property and you send them an LOL for 24.5 or whatever it happens to be, you actually get a few more calls that way. So it's a little more legwork on the leads, but that comes down to how good are you on the phone.
Interesting. Huh. Just a blank ass purchase and sale agreement.
Correct. Single page.
I like it.
It works too, which is interesting.
Dude, I mean, I don't care. I've always been agnostic, right? Like whether that's a broker, a neighbor, a friend, a letter, a text, a virtual voicemail, right? Like all that stuff like that. I don't care where it comes from. All that matters is that you understand whether that's a flip, your exit, your buy and your exit, or your game plan if you want to try to add value to it, right?
Right.
As long as I don't care where it comes from.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Dude, I like that. That's pretty cool. Is that something you came up with, or is that something that you saw somewhere else?
I can't take credit for that. We actually, I heard it on Dan and Mason's podcast, the Big Picture Blueprint.
Yeah. Two good
And they
dudes, young
had
guys kicking ass in Colorado.
absolutely. One of them said they were starting to use that like back in the fall, and I talked to my partner Rob, and I was just like, let's send a couple mailers out like that, and we've been getting incredible response rates from it. You know,
I bet you.
going from half a point to a point for response rate and getting like 5, 6, 7% kind of response rate. So, you
Dude, I
know,
mean, that's all marketing is, right? It's just marketing. It's not sales. There's a difference between sales and marketing. And when you're using one, an offer letter, you're literally doing sales and marketing. Like, hi, do you want to have, you know, do things at the bar versus, hey, my name's Trevor. Who are you? What do you do? Like, it's wham bam trying to make it all happen at one time versus building a relationship with those people, especially when you have a higher quality piece of dirt, right? It's not a 10 acre in Brewster County, Texas, or a 5 acre in Castillo or whatever, right? There
right.
has to be some give and take and some relationship building.
Correct. And it's it's one of those things too where we've added a little like verbiage on the top so we can still keep it a single letter LOL, and we kind of put in there we're seeking building lots to add more affordable housing to the area and yada yada yada. So
Yep.
you still able to hit the heartstrings a little bit, that you're looking for the right stuff and doing it for the right reasons, which we are. It's not anything that we're nefarious, but we're looking for stuff to build homes on, and that's really
Yep.
it.
So is that what y'all are doing, right? Are y'all doing a lot of infill lots? Are y'all doing a lot of right outside of town, or what are y'all looking for right now, or
Most of our
doing, or what have
transactions,
y'all done, and then kind of what are you looking for?
yeah. So most of our transactions have all been smaller infill lots, and the infill lots can go from anywhere from a half acre up to 5, 6, 7 acres, depending
Yep.
on where we are. In the Carolinas or North Carolina, because there's people that have 5 acre lots. So that's still an infill lot.
Yep.
We've done a handful of larger acreage, and we're working on a big entitlement deal right now too. That's new to us, but we're learning a lot with it, and I think the future will eventually hold more of those and eventually be able to do them ourselves. Maybe not at the same acreage level we're at right now, but being able to get a 30, 40, 50 acre and cut them up into 10 fives or whatever the case may be.
Yep. 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 So let's talk about what are a couple of your better deals that you've done out in your neck of the woods, right? Just the flip stuff. It doesn't have to be like
Yeah,
we'll talk about. We can talk about the value add stuff and things like that. But like, so what are a couple of your deals that you were kind of, it didn't have to be the biggest or whatever, but kind of like maybe the one that you're most proud of.
sure. We had a decent one in Ridgeland, South Carolina, not too long ago. We had So it was a person I started talking to about a year ago from now, and we finally got it under contract in August. So August of 24. We closed on it middle or so of September. It was a 1 acre parcel, just a little infill lot, but it was close to the ocean, but not on the ocean. It was like, half a mile away, 3/4 of a mile away.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he had been planning to build on it. He already had his septic permit. He had a survey done not too long ago, but it's overbrush was all cleared, all in there, so we had to clear it out. We bought it for 50 with closing costs and associated stuff. We're about 55 into it total, and we had it on the market for 125. We had an offer within 3 days of going onto the market at 110, and we settled at 115. So after taking out realtor commission, because it was with a realtor, and closing costs on the other end, I think we made $47,000 or $48,000 within a 60-day period. Buying it, selling it, money in the bank.
How many times did you have to follow up with that seller?
I could look it up. I don't have the KPI right in front of me, but probably close to 20 before we really got a good
That's
conversation
what I
going.
want people to hear, right? It
Yeah.
wasn't just I got this. We got a lead. We bought it. 60 days later, we sold this little bitch, right? Like that's the difference. When you have these better
Right.
properties, you have to go through, and it is sales, right? It's not just marketing; it's sales as well. Yeah,
Yep.
100%. That's what I want people to understand. Like you can't just let this stuff lie. You have to stay
Yeah.
top of mind, and especially almost all the good deals, they're either done right then and there, or they're done a year, 2 years after you've initially touch base with them, but they have forgotten all about you in about 13 minutes after you talk to them. And so you had to stay on top of mind. Coming from someone that has done nothing but professional sales his entire life, no one gives a shit about you except for you. Just realize that and be okay with that. Just realize, like, hey, I'm going to have to follow up in order to get this deal done.
Yeah, follow up. I mean, the majority of our deals are all follow up. I mean, we've had a couple come through and, been newer kind of leads where we get them and close them. But I'd say 80% of the deals we're doing right now are just, it's old leads from stuff that's been sitting in the CRM for 6+ months.
Yep. What I wanted to get to you to talk about, right? Is because that's what it takes. And the cool thing with that is most people won't do that, right? But it's also like, I'm pretty sure Geico and all those, insurance companies and car companies and all that stuff, they don't want to spend $12 million on an ad at the Super Bowl, right? They don't want to do that. That costs them money, but they know that they have to stay in front of these people enough to stay top of mind whenever Trevor, once every 4 years, wants to buy a new pickup, right? It's just the way it is. So
Relevant.
whether you like it or not, you have to have follow up.
Yeah.
What CRM are y'all using?
So we were using Trello. We're actually really standing up the business this year. So we've just moved over to Follow Up Boss.
Yep.
But for the past year and a half, we were using Trello, which is just cards and managing them, and that's its own kind of gauntlet. Especially once you start having more than, I think just in my board alone, I had about 270 to 300 leads just in there. So just trying to keep, because in Trello you're going to have your sections and your however you lay it out, but you'd be like, this is your South Carolina downstate land, this is your South Carolina upstate land, this is your North Carolina Gastonia or Kingsmount, however you have it. But once you start moving the cards around and trying to just keep them where they need to be, it's it's a gauntlet. But we recently just set up Follow Up Boss. Been using it now for about a month. Really enjoying it. It's nice having our calls recorded now. I can even go back and review my own calls and be like, oh, what the hell did I say? Or why did that go sideways? Whatever it happens to be, and figure out if it was something I did or something I said or the tonality or whatever that happens to be. So Follow Up Boss is really cool. We're getting ready to start using Smarter Contact. We're actually at the point now where we just hired a scrubber. We're going to be pulling about 40 to 60,000 data points a month, and we're going to be texting between 60 and 80,000 texts a month. So we're
what are the rules and regs on that shit right now?
Going into high gear right now. They're still all fine. We got to follow TCPA and all the do not call lists and things like that. But there was something coming down the pipeline, and from my understanding, it got knocked down by the higher courts.
Okay.
So it's back in play.
Sweet. That's good. That's good to hear.
Even ringless voicemail and things like that. We're steering away from ringless voicemail because there's a lot of gray area with that. But there's still a lot of people that use it and have great success with it.
I did ringless voicemails with whatever that was in 2016 and 17. I mean, they do work, but I always got caught. And then I get called back. And I'm like, who the fuck was this, right? And you're like, which one was it? And they're like, what do you mean you don't know which? You left me the voicemail, dumbass. You know. And so anyway, yeah. Obviously,
that's actually one thing I really enjoyed now with Follow Up Boss is that I can just put the phone number in and it actually pulls up. With Trello,
100%.
Like Control F to find, maybe the last 4 numbers pull it up, maybe it doesn't, and it was just like,
I use Follow Up Boss. I mean, I've used it for years and years, so $69 a month is totally worth it.
Yeah,
100%. So y'all are doing that right now. Really want to ramp up there. Are y'all doing any kind of value add stuff, or is that kind of in the pipeline?
That's in the pipeline. We've, like I said, we're working on one entitlement deal right now with an entitlement company where we brought the deal to them. I'm still cultivating everything with the seller. And coincidentally, too, it was also a year before we got that under contract. So 118 acres in one of the Carolinas, and they're in the process now of They got all the drawings done, so now the seller has a preliminary map of where everything is because he wants to cut the timber out. So he can start cutting the timber out. Surveys are coming up in the next couple of weeks. Soil samples, engineering, that's all coming up very soon. We have a preliminary closing date of the beginning of May. I think it may get extended 1 or 2 months out from there, but I'm like 75-80% this is going to close at this point. It's everything's going the right way. The seller's in good moods. The buyer and the entitlement company, they're all giving us a thumbs up. And the biggest hurdle was getting everything contracted. Everyone agreed upon where we need to be. All the contracts are signed. Everyone knows where we're at. Deposits are in. We know when the money goes hard and the buyer can't get their money back as far as where we are in the contract. So it's working out well.
Nice. So on that, what can that seller make off of the timber? Do you know?
I don't know. I mean, my assumption is, so it's a 118-acre tract, and it's mostly wooded. I'd say 70% wooded. If I had to take a wild guess, I'm thinking he's going to get 250 out of it, maybe 300. I mean, there's a lot of old, mature trees. He's never cut it before, and he's had the property for 30-plus years. So he's got a lot of good hardwood that's in there. So I think he's going to do okay with it. But again, that's just me pulling something out of my ass. So I don't know with 100% certainty.
So what are you... And again, I know that you're not, and I'm not worried about your cut or one way or the other. So let's play with the numbers here. Y'all got it under contract for what per acre?
$12,500 an acre.
$12,500 an acre. What are the lots on an acre? And I know you don't count them on an acreage. It's not going to be much higher density than that. But what is the potential exit price for the lots? Again, we're not counting all the engineering, the roads, the what, blah blah blah, whatever. Right.
Right.
What is the exit? You know what I mean? What do you think that number is?
The proposed shovel-ready lot, which is going to take a lot of money to get there, is around $45,000 to $50,000 per acre.
Okay, that's actually okay. It's actually less than I thought. But again, at 12.5, I mean, there's lots of room.
Yeah. So the entitlement company is under contract to buy it between ourselves and the one other company that's with us for $22.5. So there's a $1.2 million spread.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, like I said, because again, we're looking at one in between Houston and Austin right now. That's 170 acres that we would be at 17, give or take, $17,000 an acre. But we would have to put, we'd buy for nearly $3 million, and we would have to put over $5 million in infrastructure, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you're going to spend well more than what you did on actually buying the dirt, getting it even where close, right? But again, you're looking at on our side, like you're looking at nearly $100,000 an acre. You know what I mean?
Right.
As far as they're small lots, you know what I mean. So you're getting higher density lots because they're going to be more affordable houses. You know what I mean? But you're also looking at a 5-year absorption rate, 5 to 6 year absorption rate, right? Anyway, there's a million different things that you got to work with, right? Lift stations, whether you're going to do a mud, whether or not you're going to do a PID, what you know what I mean? Did they already have all the sewer and water at the facility? Or at
there's water at the roadway, but it's a 3-inch main. So that's
not even close.
Correct. So they've already factored that in. They've got to move at a minimum up to a 6-inch main, potentially an 8-inch main.
8-inch main. That's all I was about to say.
Yeah. So, and it's about the same price when they're running it in from where the closest tap is. But it's going to be all septic tanks. So that's why they're going to be 1 acre lots.
Yeah.
So they might be a smidge below. They might be a 0.75 or 0.8 or 0.9. But the proposed home sites is 80 home sites in there, including all the greenery, the common space, and everything else. So, and then, it's got great road frontage. It's got probably it's a little over 2,000 feet of frontage. So it's got a.
Is it a state highway, a farm to market? What's the road there?
I don't have it off the top of my head. I know it's from the highway. It's only about 3/4 of a mile from getting off one of the main highways there. And then there's a big school, a big college that's not very far from it, like 3-4 miles away.
Gotcha.
So the proposed kind of exit home prices for the plat is going to be 500 on the low side and up to about 675, 700 on the high side.
That's the hard part when you're doing acreage lots, right? And this is what we talked about. This is what Jordan and I talk about all the time today and every day, right? You got a rural subdivision, or you're going to do an acreage lot deal, which you don't have to have quite the infrastructure, at least in Texas for the most part. You don't have to build the concrete roads. You sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. It just depends on where you're at, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have to worry about the sewer. You can run water wells if you need to. And so you don't have the fixed cost that you have to go across, right? The same amount of acreage, or you have the higher density stuff. The problem is a lot of these places, at least in Texas, the price for the lots or the overall just acreage raw, then you're going to come in and you're going to build 80 of them, which is still, it's kind of a boutique development, right? It really is.
Right.
The bad thing is then you got 80 of them. What's your absorption rate when you have a $600 to $700 to $800,000 house in certain markets, right? You got to make sure it's in the right market. Otherwise, you're going to have a hard time selling all those damn things, right? We talked to a guy that does a bunch of this stuff just west of Houston, and they do beautiful, beautiful product, trees, landscape, everything looks amazing, but it will take them 5 to 6 years to sell out a deal. But again, they're going to use 100 to 200 lots. Now they're wanting to go into the higher density stuff, right? Where it's more affordable.
Right.
Right. And so again, but then you're diving into a whole nother ball game. Anyway, it's just one of those things where like you keep talking about it all the time, pros and cons to all of it, right? And then literally as a developer, all you're doing is you're standing there with what do they call it? The blind justice, right? The little weighing wheel, and you're putting pros and cons on each side and deciding whether or not, if I'm going to make this much money, the risk has to be here, right? Otherwise, I don't do it, because that's all you are.
But I don't remember the name of it.
That's all you are as a developer. You're just a high risk. You're a gambler based by a hard asset, hoping that the shit turns the way it should.
Right.
Right. Again, you can have appraisals, you can have banks that say that's great, all this other stuff, but you don't know, right?
Till that money's in the bank and it clears.
Effing money's in the bank. Believe me, I stay up at night all the time worrying about that shit. So yeah, it's a interesting game, but man, it is not for the faint of heart or someone that needs money tomorrow.
Right. And there's still so many things that can fall apart in any of those deals. You could be in the 9th inning and it can still fall apart.
But that's the nice thing about what you're talking about with only 80 lots, right? And not having to run the water. Like there's pros and cons, especially if you have a developer that's willing to buy that or take it to the next level, right? Where it's finished lots, somebody believes in the product and in the area enough, right? And that's why you want to make sure that you're doing it in the path of progress, where if in 5 years you plan on being worth and closer to all the action anyway.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. That's why you're probably not going to be doing it in Sioux City. You know what I mean? Like there's certain places that you're just not going to be doing this stuff.
Correct. And it's in an area where, old 40-year-old homes that are 2,000 square feet are selling for $400,000. Yep. And they haven't been touched in the 40 years. So giving someone a brand new product at the $500 to $600 range, of course, still decent amount of money, but that's great value for that area.
100%, right? 100% for sure. But again, you got it at $12,000 an acre.
Correct.
But again, he also knows that he's catching, $300,000, you know what I mean, in timber.
Right.
And he's selling it, getting it gone, everything else. He's doing okay.
Yeah.
Everybody wins, right?
Correct.
That's the whole point when it comes to value add, whether that is a simple subdivide, an acreage lot, high density, commercial, whatever the hell it is. If you've got a game plan to add real value that you can basically kind of count on the actual value, where you can have someone that is a professional appraiser or 5 of them, and they're all going to give you about the same numbers, and the valuation is going to be there and everything else, it makes you sleep a little better and everybody can win. quote unquote win, right?
Right.
You want to win more because you're the guy taking all the damn risk. So for sure,
Definitely.
for sure. So, Matt, what is the goal, right? So the next year or so, what's the goal for you? What are you wanting to try to do? Like, what's and you and your partner and everything else. Like, what are you really trying to get accomplished?
I mean, I definitely want to take on a couple horizontal developments, small stuff,
Yep.
just developing a couple, 1-2 acre lots. If I find a 5-10 acre parcel that has good frontage and we can cut it into, 4 or 5 building lots and kind of
Yep.
go from there. I mean, the end goal ultimately, I mean, I would like to build high end stuff. I guess that's kind of my taste, just being around all the super expensive cars and living in New York so long. It's normal going into very expensive places and be like, oh well, I understand what this marble looks like and things like that. I mean, that would be
They
kind
won't
of
even
the
let
end
me in
goal.
those places. They look at me and they're like, "No, Mister, turn your ass around."
But that's just being in it so long. That's where I feel comfortable. Just
Mm-hmm.
it's where the normalcy kind of thing.
Yep. Yep.
But yeah, I mean, definitely want to do some horizontal developments and figure that out. And just, I think it's fun. Like, just learning about it and figuring out what you need to do, and getting with the building inspectors, getting with the townspeople and the building departments, and kind of do that. So I do like the markets that we're in right now. I would like to eventually probably even go into Vermont, which is kind of like a weird one that a lot of people don't do. Just because when you start thinking about,
Aren't people in Vermont very weird anyway?
yeah, but they have money.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, fuck, whatever, bud.
When you
So,
think about the markets and just like the population, it's one that always gets overlooked because, well, there's more people probably in about a 3 block radius in New York City than the entire state of the Vermont. So,
yeah. I
but
mean, yeah, makes
it's an
sense.
interesting area where you get a lot of people with a lot of money from Boston, from New York, from Greenwich, all those kind of places that love to have secondary homes. There's a lot of homes in Vermont that are 5, 6, $7 million plus, and there's maybe, I don't know, a dozen Vermonters that can actually afford it. I mean, I'm sure there's more than that, but
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
very small subset. But there's a lot of really expensive real estate that's in that area.
I'm gonna challenge you to really look at what's already in your CRM, and
Hmm.
I know that you've got a couple boutique subdivision acreage lot deals in there.
Sure.
I know there are, right? There, 1,000,000% there is. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So like that's go in the areas that you really like, right? You've already worked these areas, all this stuff. People that you like, know, like, trust. You know what I mean? That you got somebody on the ground that can run a bunch of that shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's I guarantee you there's at least two of them in your CRM already.
Yeah. Probably.
There's I promise you there are. You know what I mean? You just got to really look at it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And again, as much marketing as you're doing and everything else like that, there's going to be something there, right? If you put a good game plan together, it doesn't have to be your money, right? You
Hmm.
have a partner, you can use a bank and a partner, whatever that is. There is a game plan, and then again, you just have to know what your damn costs are, right?
Right.
You're just going to work down the deal.
So we're actually working on one right now too. Someone I met in your community, so Eric Bakey
Uh huh.
in
Yeah.
Charleston. So we got a property under contract. He ended up taking over the contract, and he's going to do the horizontal development, and we'll get paid out in the back end when he finally closes on it. So it's about an acre and a half in on Johns Island in Charleston, and
Okay.
he's going to cut it up into 4 building lots.
Okay.
So, but he's and fortunately, he's let me, kind of be close in the background with him. So I'm kind of like watching it, how he does it, and kind of learning along the way. So
And here's the cool thing about it is you'll learn more from that than you'll ever learn from any podcast, book, or whatever. You got to be in that shit,
oh,
right?
100%.
And then you realize that you don't have to be the smartest. You know what I mean? It's not rocket surgery, right? Like you don't. You just have to learn to jump through all their damn hoops, right?
Hmm.
And once you learn to jump through their hoops, then you've got somebody that actually wants that product where you're at, right? Whether that's in the county or the city or whatever that is. Once you realize, like, hey, we're not going to fight you on this thing. Again, affordability, right? That's all these people hear all the time from their constituents and everything else. Even though someone's going to bitch about it, even though you may put in the greenest subdivision there's ever been and all this other stuff, there's still going to be people bitch at you. Oh, well. That's why a lot of these developers are doing stuff out in the county and not in the city limits anymore, right? Because it's just it's easier.
A lot. You start looking at the bylaws and what you need for minor subdivides or even just whatever.
Shoot yourself. Yes.
God.
yeah. But I want you to really look at that the next couple of days and really look through your CRM and be like, I wonder if this one would work, right? And really just, and if nothing else, get a hold of the county, get a hold of this, say, hey, I got this one over here, right? This is what we need to do. What does that take? And the thing is it's just practice, but it's practice with a live one on the line. You know what I mean? And then if it works, then you can be like, oh shit, now I need to put this under contract, right? And now I need to go raise the money, or I need to find the lenders, or whatever that is. Because here's where everyone fucks up. Is they want to do it. The reason most people get into land is because it's quirky and it's cheap to get into. Correct. Right? The bad thing is they never get over that learning how to raise capital or find lenders or whatever that is, right? That's the hard part. Or like where I'm at right now, right? Like the whole goal is to bring affordability to land overall, right? The thing is, the people that I work with and talk to and all this other stuff are not any further than I am, right? Like they haven't done anything different. So I have to move and meet new people and understand new rules, regs, things like this, and step up on a level whenever it comes to the capital needed to get that done, right? And so this is it's just one of those things like hopefully you never get done leveling up, but the cool thing is if you got a good product, especially with the value add stuff, right? You got a good product, there's usually enough room on those projects that there's enough to make sure everybody's happy, right? That's the cool part. Where you may not make very much on it, or you may make a commission, or you may make a small percentage, or whatever that is. Just depends on how good you are at lining everything up. But the big deal with that is now you got a feather in your hat. Right? Now you're meeting the right kind of people. Absolutely. Now you're getting a track record. And now you just walk around with your chest stuck out a little bit saying, hey, I've done this. It didn't kill me. You know what I mean? I wanted to shoot myself sometimes, but it really didn't kill me. Right? I'm okay with this. Right? It's not like you're developing a skyscraper in downtown New York. That's the all-stars, right? You know what I mean? We're just trying to get to single A. Right. You know what I mean? After playing in the little leagues, you know? So like that's the cool thing about it though, is because whenever you have a hard asset, and I don't know how in God's name these people build businesses, inventing stuff and all that stuff, because I'm not smart enough, I'm not creative enough. If I didn't have real estate, the thing that was my product was already there, I don't know what I would do. You know?
If it was the same stationary thing, for me personally, it'd be boring. That's the great thing about real estate is like every single transaction is different. Even if it's two identical lots next to each other, completely different transaction.
They cannot be destroyed and they cannot be moved, right? Like that's the whole point. Real estate, right? The real estate right there, that's what real estate is. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love it. So, Matt, where can people get a hold of you? What, if they got stuff in your neck of the woods that they want to work on, what can we do?
Sure. Email Matt at cash4americanland.com, and the 4 is just the number 4.
Number 4.
Or call or text 917-399-6154.
Do that number one more time.
917-399-6154.
Nice. He put it out there. That means reach out to him, people.
100%.
Again, collaboration, right? Like there's plenty enough. Work together. Get some shit done. So
You'll go further with other people than by yourself.
you have to, because guess what? Especially as you do the value add and the higher dollar stuff and everything else like this, it is a team sport.
Right.
And again, you can't do it all because legally you can't do it all. You don't have the right stamps. You don't have all the right things like this. You're going to have contractors, engineers, attorney, all this other stuff anyway. So you might as well learn to play together.
Definitely.
So anyway, awesome, Matt. I appreciate your time. Thank you, sir.
Got it.